Hey guys, welcome to the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast. We're going to talk to you today about a couple different things, okay? First of all, let me show you my pubic hair, Borat. No, I'm just joshing you guys about the voice. I'm not going to do that the whole time. In fact, I'm going to start the podcast recording here in just a minute. So if you guys, if you guys, I'm going to start the podcast. And so, what I'm trying to say is, if you could just hold on a sec, we're going to start. And if you're wondering, yes, I am wearing two hats. I appreciate that. I'm sorry if you don't like my hats. I apologize. Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna get this friggin' thing started. Are you guys ready? Are you freaking ready? It's hilarious. That means we're starting. That's what that is. That annoys me. That's fun, right? Oh, I got a couple bug bites. Not fun. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast, aka the Miguel Old R2D2 Comedy Podcast. That's my droid impression, aka my breast impression of thine self, aka myself. So, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the wavelength of me. I appreciate that. You're getting on my level is what you're doing, and I am flattered. I'm flabbergasted. Quite frankly, I'm very intellectually aroused by that information. I'm aroused, non-sexually, by the fact that your eardrums are being stimulated by the center of my core right now. I appreciate that. I like that I am stimulating your eardrums, even though I don't know it. I know I'm stimulating either zero people's. I know that I'm at least stimulating my own eardrums right now, and there's the potential for me to stimulate anywhere between zero more people and infinite more people. That is my math brain working there. I do fit the stereotype. I am a quarter Asian, and I fit the stereotype of having been good at math. I hate to brag here, but math was always my best subject. I actually got a perfect score on my AP calculus test, which means I took calculus when I was in high school, and I got a perfect score on it. So I tested out of pretty much every math class that I ever needed to take again, which is ironic because I loved math, and yet I didn't take any math classes in college just because I didn't need to. And technically you're saving money, right? So because math was not part of my degree, aside from some basic statistics classes for business and the natural math that you do in economics, I did not take mathematics or higher level like Calc 2 or DiffEq, as they call it, differential equations. But I've always been good with numbers. As I say, I am very good with calculations. That's my impression of the bad guy, the bad Asian guy in The Dark Knight. Do you guys remember him? They're like, who managed all of the bad guy's money? Is like, as I said, I'm very good with calculations. So that is a skill that I share with the bad Asian guy from Batman. Can you believe these Batman casters making stereotypes by having the guy good at calculations be Asian? I mean, these guys are racist, right? I mean, yeah. All right. That's obviously a joke that I may never say again because it is slightly edgy and potentially not funny at all. Speaking of math, though, today's episode, number 77. Guys, are you familiar with the symbolic meaning behind the number 7? Are you guys familiar with the symbolic meaning behind the number 777? Do you guys know what that means? Google it. Say symbolic meaning of 7 or 777. And you guys might just see a picture of Nicolas Cage from the City of Angels. There might be a gift there that says, I'm Seth. What I'm trying to say is 777 is a divine number. So just in case you've ever wondered, hey, if the devil has a number, does God? Well, the answer is yes. It's 777, God's number. That is why it is embedded in secret places, such as the Bruce Almighty flick with Jim Carrey. I don't know if you guys remember, but Bruce Almighty said, when Morgan Freeman said, hey, would you like to help me mop these floors? And Jim Carrey said, how about a rain check? As if he was going to get out of it. Morgan Freeman said, I'll hold you to that. And basically, he held him to that at 7 p.m. on the 7th floor, something. 777 though. They got into our little subconsciousness. There is what I'm trying to say. Bruce Almighty, one of my favorite flicks. Very, very great and deep stuff. The prayer that Bruce Almighty gave to Morgan Freeman really made me cry. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a crier. I cry when I watch Rudy. I cry when I watch the movie City of Angels. I cry when I watch Gladiator, and I cry when my girlfriend doesn't cuddle me. It's really upsetting. She's not very affectionate, but alrighty then. I don't know why I've got a Jim Carrey vibe right now, but I'm feeling a little bit of Jim Carrey. I don't know. Maybe it's this episode 777. Oh, righty then. All right. So yeah, that's episode 77. So today is a divine episode. It is, if you guys are repulsed by any type of spiritual or religious symbolism and or direct contact and talk, I suggest you turn the episode off, because today we are dedicating this episode to Morgan Freeman. All right. Alrighty then. All right. So, I'll do my normal format. I am going to talk about the normal stuff, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the comedy world, what's going on in my world of comedy, what's going on in my world. Those would be the 4 things. But yes, there will be a theme of deeper, and I think that's become a running theme in some ways throughout my podcast, is this whole Da Vinci Code style guerrilla tactic infiltration of love. I am the Da Vinci Code comedian that Leonardo da Vinci was in that code. All right. Alrighty then. Alrighty. So let's start off by talking about, let's talk a little bit about the world. How about that? Does that make you guys aroused? Raytheon and United Technologies might be merging. Pretty interesting, huh? I don't really have much to say about that. I don't have much to say about that at all. I wish I had a comment, but I don't. So that's a piece of news. Times Magazine. Oh, here we go. Rich millennials are fleeing from New York City. And so are successful bankers because of the cost of living. I saw this headline and I giggled to myself. We live in a digital world. Transparency and honesty and things coming to the light are happening more and more. It's as if people have been saying the Lord's Prayer for a while, and things are happening on earth as they are in heaven. Meaning that light and truth are beginning to emerge. And people are going, why live in New York? This place is so expensive. I'm going to go put my money and make it last longer and live in maybe some nicer, cleaner areas. I don't know. I love New York, so I'm not putting it down. I do heart New York, but I do think that this place is obnoxiously priced and serves a purpose for the time that I'm here, but definitely not something that I think would make sense for me to do forever here in Old York City. But nevertheless, we live in a digital world, as I said, so jobs are becoming, they used to have downtown financial district where I live. I basically kind of live in a ghost town now because everything's digital. I live in an old bank, the AEG headquarters. In fact, we have a movie theater downstairs that is inside of a safe that was once holding who knows how many millions of dollars at any one point in time. And yeah, this building is very historical. So I live in a skeleton and ghost building of the past financial dominance of the world. But like I said, everything is digital now, and people are realizing they don't necessarily need to live in New York and pay the ridiculous premiums that exist here so that they can say that they live in New York. What am I still doing here? Yeah. Who knows? I don't know. I told myself when I moved to New York that I'm talking too much about me. Let's get back to the world. All right. Time came out with a magazine, The Science of Good and Evil. So that is something I'm going to talk a little bit about in today's episode. But before I do that, I also have a magazine that Time released maybe last year. My girlfriend got it for me. It's The Science of Laughter. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later as well, but let's talk about hockey and the NBA Finals. Have you guys been paying attention? Yeah, I have, Mike. Yeah, I'm speaking for you, I guess. I'm speaking for some of you, or one of you, or I imagine at least one of you has paid attention somewhat. The Blues just lost Game 4, so now it is tied. Sorry, I think they lost Game 6. Yeah, so it's tied at 3-3. So they're going for the tiebreaker into Game 7. Ironic, huh? How Game 7 is where champions are made. Oh my gosh, it's like 7 is a number that we've talked about before. It's always Game 7, right? For World Series, for NBA championships, for hockey. Isn't 7 just something, huh? Is that the Fibonacci code? Do you guys remember the Fibonacci code? I don't remember. Alexa, what's the Fibonacci code?
According to another Amazon customer, Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is a set of numbers that starts with a 1 or a 0, followed by a 1, and proceeds based on the rule that each number, called a Fibonacci number, is equal to the sum of the preceding two numbers. Did that answer your question?
No, it didn't. I was asking about that divine number in Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, but I'm going to not ask you another question. You talked too much there, Alexa, but you know what? I'm going to treat you with respect, and I appreciate your effort because you might be my boss someday, and I want to make sure that we're on good terms and that, I treated you by the book so that if there's ever some sort of an HR problem, you and I are square and we're on good terms. Is that cool, Alexa? She's giving me the silent treatment. Alrighty then. All right, let's move on. So, that said, yeah, the Blues did lose tonight. I'm sorry for the St. Louis fans, but hey, let's make it dramatic, right? Go to Game 7, make it exciting. Usually when championships don't go to Game 7, it's just not as exciting. It's just not as exciting. So, will the Blues take home the big trophy? TBD, guys, but it all comes down to Game 7, which will be Wednesday night at 8 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. Tune in so that if the Blues win, then you can jump on the bandwagon like everybody else. And if nothing else, at least congratulate my friend Tyler Chafing for being a loyal Blues fan his entire life. So he is the reason that I'm rooting for the Blues. I saw a funny thing about bandwagon people. Someone said, don't hurt yourself jumping off the Warriors bandwagon. So I haven't paid attention. I don't know if they played tonight, but I know that the Warriors are down in the series right now. And can I just say, I think it's because their uniforms are so ugly right now. I don't know why they're wearing those gray uniforms. It's repulsive. They deserve to lose with those ugly freaking unis, you know? I'm kidding. Now I'm starting to sound like Bruno. Oh my gosh, the uniforms are like so ugly. You know, they should not win just because of the uniforms like make me think like, what are they even? Are these people like stupid? Do they not know anything about fashion? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, let's get back to the magazines because that's really all that I have going on in the world. There's been a couple random updates, people running for president or something, in 2020. That's coming up quick, guys. President Trump is he likes to point out how much good he's done. I've never seen a president in my life point out how good they are. Have you guys ever met someone who talks about how good they are? Because I have. His name was Jake Harry. He was a punter for the University of Missouri. And I've never met anybody that talks about how good he is and how much money he makes and how he's a one-upper as well, right? Like he one-ups you and you know that everything coming out of his mouth is bullshit. So I haven't seen a person do that as much as Jake until I saw, Donald Trump on TV. There's an interesting parallel between the two of them. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. But let's talk a little bit about the science of good and evil, right, guys? So we've got this magazine. I don't know if you guys can see it here. Oh, and for the listeners on just the audio version of my podcast, you obviously can't see me, but if you want the visual that goes with this recording, check me out on YouTube at my handle is LOLDroid Stories. Oh shit, I think I might actually be broadcasting this from a different YouTube channel. I have a few different YouTube channels. The one it appears to be broadcasting from right now is my Michael Oldroyd. Just type in Michael Oldroyd. It's a picture of me doing comedy with the yellow Eureka jersey. So I think I'm actually streaming this from the wrong podcast. Isn't that interesting? All right, so this whole science of good and evil, for those of you who don't like deep spiritual talk, this is science, right? So this is the study of good and evil and what that actually means, at least in worldly scientific terms. I mean, as you know, time is a it's like you know what time is. I don't need to sit here and explain it. There's all kinds of fun stuff in here, right? They got a nice table of contents at the beginning. That's always good. Hey, table of contents. Introduction. What makes us moral? These are some of the topics, right? The roots of good and evil. Where the demons play. That's one. Another is diagnosing the disease called evil. Uh-oh. Why are they talking about so much bad? Why don't they talk about good? Okay. The next section is good. Okay, it's called good deeds, good health, good life. Oh, great. The section after that, can the truly bad turn good? Oh my God. The next one is the binality of evil. The next one is angels and monsters. Hey, I like how they didn't call it angels and demons. That's interesting. The next one, Star Wars and Harry Potter. The next section is called animal morality. Is it real? Ooh, that's exciting. Do animals have the option to think between what is good and what is bad? Then we got one called Tales of True Heroism, the best and the worst. The next one is the beasts within us. Ooh, plural? What in the heaven? The next one after that is the only way forward. And then finally, may their memory be a lesson. Ooh, sounds deep. Alrighty then. Look, they got some pictures of some brains, so they studied the actual brain makeup of people. Did you guys know that one thing that we studied, I haven't read the magazine yet, but a couple things that stand out. One is the structure of the brain when looked at through an MRI of people that are like psychopaths and serial killers actually have like a different looking like structure. There's like less, I forget what it's called, white matter or something in their brain. So from a physical perspective, there is a different structure. And from a behavior perspective, and the actual makeup of their mind, they lack something called empathy. I don't know if you guys have ever studied or heard of the phenomenon called empathy, but I took a strength finder assessment when I was at my last job. I worked for a company at one point called Accenture. I can say that now because I don't work for them anymore. And, they're very, science-based. And, we had a evaluation that each of us took to figure out our strengths and weakness, right? Or at least our top strengths. I had a couple of strengths come back. Communication was one of my greatest strengths. Another one was something called the woo factor, which is the ability to win people over, which that's a pretty strong strength. You want that, right? If you're pursuing comedy or if you work in sales. So the ability to win people over. So communication, strategic thinking was another. So like intelligent, strategy-based thinking. But my greatest strength of all, guys, was something called empathy. And let me just say, no surprise that I'm a Hufflepuff. Let's read one of my favorite sections here, The Great Thinkers. This is a section that has a picture of Darth Vader, Yoda, and Dumbledore. It says, Great Thinkers. No culture is complete without its philosopher kings. Yoda, green, elfin, and truth be told, latex. Not really sure what that latex is. It says he taught Luke Skywalker the full power and dimensions of the Force, and similarly mentored by Jedi before him, or many Jedi before him. So he mentored many of them. Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, shaped the education of all who came through his doors. They both hung around a long time too. Dumbledore makes it to about 150 years. Hey-o, 150. Good job, Dumbledank. That's long living, my friend. Alrighty then. Yoda cracks 900. Holy heaven, my God. Yoda, you be turning me on for an old man. In the course of their lives, they teach not just the good guys, but the bad. Oh my God. Master Yoda ran the Jedi Council as Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader's true identity, came of age. Dumbledore found and helped teach the orphan Tom Riddle Voldemort's human identity. Out of everybody in Harry Potter, guys, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, the person I resonate most with is Dumbledore. And though he's an old man, I feel when I saw the newer, what is the newer one with Newt, whatever he is, he's a Hufflepuff, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. And Dumbledore was younger in that new what is it, Fantastic Beasts or whatever, takes place here in New York. The young version of Dumbledore is played by Jude Law, and I'm telling you, I feel like I'm that dude. You know what I mean? Like I'm the reincarnated version of young Dumbledore. And I say that with genuine. I say that from the bottom of thine heart. I feel like Dumbledore when he was younger. Moving on, very interesting stuff here. So they talk a lot about the Force and like they call it the apotheosis of good and evil. Everything about Star Wars Darth Vader screams evil, from the all-black ensemble to his taste for telekinetically choking subordinates to the nasty business of overseeing development of a weapon that can blow up planets. Jeez, Darth, what's your deal, dude? Freaking blowing up planets? God, what's this guy's problem, you know? But there's a couple quotes in here that I think are pretty fun. The last section here, it says wise words. Couple easy quotes, nothing too undigestible for your eardrums, in my opinion, right now. You can pick this version up of Time Magazine that just came out recently, and you can decide these things yourself. On the cover, it says, what makes us moral? Good deeds, good health, understanding the dark side. Wonderful. All I'm going to do is read these last couple quotes here and then move on, because I'm having fun, and I hope you guys are too, because I freaking love you. Luff. All right, that's what I tell my girlfriend. All right, wise words. The web of our life is of mingled yarn, good and ill together. William Shakespeare. Come on, Will. No. Bill Shakespeare. Smart guy, I reckon, right? So I guess what they're trying to say is there's good and bad in all of us. Interesting. Jeez, Will. You know, what in the heck? What the heck, dude? All right. I like Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote here. This is one I haven't heard of him before, but I really like it. It says, I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. That is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. I'm telling you, that's some true honey right there, baby. I love that. Good oftentimes appears to be the losing side. Good oftentimes appears to be the losing side. I've experienced it in my life many a time. But you know what? What reward and what glory is there into just being a sunshine patriot, right? Why be a bandwagoner, right? Just a bandwagoner of evil. Come on, don't do that crap. You know? But also don't fight for. This is you wanna know what I really think. If you're gonna fight for a side, right? Don't just do. Like, I think you got to fight for the side. Like, how do I articulate this properly? Fight for good, not because you think it will win in the end, because it will. All right. Sorry to be cocky here, but not just because you think it will win in the end, but because it's the right thing to do, right? Even if good lost, go down fighting for good, baby. You know what I'm saying? Because that is as valiant as it can get. How about The Gladiator, right? Freaking Maximus. God, that movie I was watching it over the weekend. It was on, and that flick is good. That's a good freaking flick, you know? Freaking the Emperor. What's the Emperor's deal in that flick? Anyway, let's move on to a couple other topics. The Science of Laughter, right? This Time magazine here came out last year. Very cool stuff. It's called Special Time Edition, just like the other. I'm just going to read one quote from this. It says, last laugh. A day without laughter is like a day without sunshine, and a day without sunshine is like night. That's what Steve Martin said. And in this whole good and evil book, they said that, they talked about the importance of empathy. They talked about how you can be without darkness, you can't see the light, right? So, it's very deep without getting too scripture-based. And I reckon a read. And I think I've talked about that enough now. So, yeah, we talked about what's going on in the world. Let's talk about a quote that my father said. Oh, here's an update in the Saturday Night Live world. Alec Baldwin is leaving Saturday Night Live, and I saw a quote saying that that's good for Trump. I guess they think it's good for Trump that freaking Alec Baldwin is no longer going to be making fun of him, but I don't know. Is that true? Do you guys agree with that? Either way, my dad came up with a funny quote. He wrote this one. It came to him, so I got to give him credit. He said, but he wrote it for me. My dad wrote me a joke, basically. So imagine me like on late night right now doing one of my jokes from my monologue. And, just like Jimmy Fallon and all the other late night guys, they have writers. So even when they're writing it from their perspective, other people have helped them. So imagine me pretending that my dad didn't write this and then I wrote this joke myself, right? When I told everybody I wanted to be a comedian, they laughed at me. Well, I became a comedian, and they aren't laughing now. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's funny, and it's probably true for some people. My dad and I are an interesting phenomenon when you put us together. He you know what, I will say this. My dad gave me a joke that when I was just a kid, it always stuck with me. And now when like a kid comes up to me and says, "Oh, you're a comedian, tell me a joke," I always tell him this joke because it's clean, it's light, it's funny, And it always works. I mean, obviously I don't use it in my stand-up, but like in a situation where a human being's like, tell me a joke, this is the type of joke that you can say in that setting. So there was this guy who was driving around with 3 penguins in his back seat, right? He was driving down the highway, cop pulls him over. Cop says, excuse me, sir, but you have 3 penguins in your back seat. And the guy says, yes, officer, absolutely, I do. And the officer says, well, you're going to have to take those penguins to the zoo, sir. That's, this is kind of ridiculous. But, and the guy cuts him off and he says, officer, absolutely. Ironically, I'm actually going to the zoo right now. I'm taking them to the zoo right now. And the police officer lets him go. They go their separate ways. The next day, at the same highway, same place, same time pretty much, the guy's driving down. He's got the 3 penguins in his backseat. Officer sees him. He's in disbelief. So he turns on his lights, pulls the guy over and says, excuse me, sir, but yesterday I pulled you over for having these penguins with you, and I said that you needed to take them to the zoo. And the guy said, officer, I did take them to the zoo. And guess what? Today we're going to the beach. So that's that fun little ditty for you. Huh? It's a nice little ditty for you guys, just for you to nibble on, make you tease your minds. Penguins are awesome. Penguins are love animals. They mate and they find a partner for life. They're cute. It's very cute. It's heartwarming. Morgan Freeman narrated a penguin thing. Was it the March of the Penguins? I forget, but Morgan Freeman, what a fun voice that guy has, right? Yeah, so that's a little bit about what's going on in the world of comedy and the world. I went to so one of my friends, speaking of what's going on in the world, one of my friends is a news guy here in New York. He works for NBC. His name is Wale Alayu. And they have this annual funniest reporter in New York competition. Tonight it was at the comic strip up in the Upper East Side. And my buddy Wally was one of the contestants. And he went to Mizzou J School. He was on one of my episodes in the past. It was my 30th birthday sausage festival podcast episode. We talked about college, and we caught up tonight. I went to go support him and watch him, and he freaking killed. It was his first time. He's done stand-up before, like in college. He performed like another comedian's act. I think it was like I can't remember whose act it was, but today was his first time doing his own comedy, his own act, his own stand-up, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park. He's been working on that for a while. It was so fun to watch him, and he won the entire competition. So it was a really big, cool thing. He can have that badge. I posted a picture of us laughing on stage. We were talking about an inside joke that we had when we had a class together and we were class clowns. I like to call it lecture clowns because it was in college and it wasn't a class. It was like a giant lecture hall of hundreds of students that we would make laugh by asking silly questions. We had a really unique teacher for art appreciation, and I'm not even gonna try to like recreate it because it was one of those you had to be there things. But yeah, we really had fun in there. We played off that teacher, and we probably drove her crazy in some ways with some of the silly questions we asked. But she was a great sport, and we learned a lot about art. Art appreciation, and it made me appreciate the Da Vinci Code a little bit. I mean, what? All right, so. Speaking of that, have you guys seen, like I told you guys today, the undertone of this episode is going to be super spiritual and good versus evil. So, I've warned you. So here we go. I think that it's interesting how, so have you guys ever been approached by someone that is like holding a Bible and wants to ask you questions in the street? Does that feel weird to you? Because it feels weird to me. But it's always an interesting thing. It'll make you stop and think. Sometimes they'll give you handouts, right? And maybe you'll read them later and go, I'm gonna look at this on my own time behind closed doors and develop my own opinion. I don't know. So maybe you'll talk to them sometimes. Who knows, right? Everyone handles that differently. Some people. What I think is interesting is I've never seen anything clear a subway car faster than somebody who was publicly praying on a subway. There was a guy who got on, started talking about his spiritual beliefs, and then he led the subway car through a prayer. Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to lead you through a prayer right now and make you all uncomfortable. Maybe you would like it. I don't know. But what I will say is this guy was reciting the Lord's Prayer, as we all know that one, I assume. If you don't, you can Google it if you're curious. It's a universal one. So that's all he was doing. And everyone got out of the subway car at the next stop. There was I've seen like homeless people sleeping in those cars, and oftentimes when they do, there's naturally a odor, I guess you could say, that comes with it. And even the odor that I've smelled in some of those cars that can clear them out haven't caused people to clear out faster than this young man that was just out there reciting the Lord's Prayer. It was just me and him in the car. I was just enjoying it, having a good time, listening in and taking a gander. But I always thought that was interesting. And, there's a book, I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's called The Devil in the White City. I can't help but wonder, is there going to be ever a writer that writes a book called The Angel in the Black City? Because I think that'd be a pretty cool read. You know what I mean? It reminds me of a Bible verse. I was talking to my girlfriend. There's a Bible verse. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You guys know the rest or not? You want me to finish? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Which is, I think that would be like a good opening line to The Angel in the White City. I think that would be The Angel in the Black City, forgive me. Maybe that's what the movie City of Angels was about with Nick Cage. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe he was an angel in a black city. Perhaps. Great flick. Let's not do too many doses at once. What else? So we talked about my buddy who, performed tonight, and that was exciting. Let me now talk about. We got some shows this week. Let me talk about my world of comedy. So I've got a couple shows this week. Tomorrow night I'm performing at the Pit, doing some stand-up, doing like a 15-minute set there. I'm also doing a show at the Pit on Friday with my group Too Nice. We're an improv and sketch and whatever you want to call it group. We do improv sketches, host those types of shows, and rotate the crops. I get to do comedy with them sometimes. So feel free to come on out, check our Instagrams. We got all kinds of stuff. Too Nice is our group name. Follow us on Twitter. I don't know. I don't freaking know. Do what you want, man. Live your life, bro. Do you? Dude, it's like cool, bro. All right. So wow, I can't believe how much we've already talked about. I've got a Funny or Die person who works at Funny or Die who's taking a look at our sketch videos, the Midwest Sketch Bandits. So that's pretty exciting. I am excited about the fact that we're having some eyes on it. So if you guys are intrigued, take a gander. Tonight when I was watching my buddy Wally, not Whale, it's W-A-L-E, by the way. So you can find him at Wale4TV, W-A-L-E, the number 4 TV, all one word. On Twitter, you can find the rest of his stuff there, access to him online, on TV. I see him on News 1 all the time as well. But I think one joke that stuck with me tonight that I thought was really hilarious is, he spells his name W-A-L-E, and he was making fun of how people call him all kinds of stuff. He's like, it's Wally, not Whale, right? And the way he presented it was very funny. But while I was there, I got to see Gladys. Do you guys remember Gladys Simon, the lovely comedy godmother? of the comic strip. It was very nice to see her. She looked great and, was in good spirits. It was very nice to see her. She asked me if I have a girlfriend yet, and I said, yes, Gladys, I'm sorry that we can't, My God. That's what I get for making a joke like that. I start coughing. Bad joke. But it was great to see her. Lovely lady. God bless Gladys Simon, right? Yeah, so, one of the things that I think is fun is I want to talk about something going on. I was nominated to do this Facebook challenge. As you guys know, I talked a little bit about it in the last episode, and I'm almost done with it now. Today was day 9 of 10, right? And I think it's pretty cool, right? It was a cool little nomination by my buddy Jamie Vaughn. He nominated me to do it. It's funny because I've been posting these pictures every day for the last 9 days now of something that had to do with me and, personally, like I get to choose the photo, and I nominate a new person each day to take up the challenge, right? To post their own 10 photos. And I think it's hilarious because I don't think a single person is accepting the challenge, right? I think me and Jamie are the only people doing it. And I can completely understand why. I mean, what football means to each of us individually goes beyond anything that really can be compiled into a freaking Facebook post. Facebook it's fun or whatever, but what football means to us is so deep. And I was hesitant myself to even put anything out there, really. But it makes it easier when you're just posting pictures without explanations or whatever. Actually explaining it and articulating actually is kind of like really putting a piece of yourself out there. And I just, as a result of that, I would be surprised if anyone that I nominated actually took me up on the challenge, because it's kind of like when somebody is like, oh, share this post, blah, 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 if you care about people who have X disease or whatever. It's like, don't put that on our shoulders. So anyone who I've nominated, I hope that you're not mad at me for nominating you. I don't expect you to take it up. I just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. And, you obviously, whoever I nominated means something specific to me in my own football journey. But day 1 was a picture of me playing when I was – you guys can find this on Facebook if you want. I think this is the part where people probably tune out because they're like, all right, Mike's talking about himself. I've gotten everything out of this podcast that I want. I'm actually going to skip around a little bit, but day 1 was me running the football when I was 7 years old. It was when I caught my first touchdown, flag football. I actually got cut my first year. I tried out for this football team called the West County Spartans. Absolute badass. There was a weight class. We had cheerleaders, tryouts. I was 7 years old. I was the youngest and smallest kid on the team. I got cut. I remember the head football coach at the time. His name was Mark something, but he was tough, and I was not ready to be as physical as required for that team. I was young. I didn't know about the contact sport. Like, we were Spartans. We were some tough mofos, all right? And I had to get beefed up a little bit and get a little bit tougher. I think I was like 95 pounds at the time, and 7 years old or whatever. Anyway, this is a picture of me. I played flag football that year after I got cut because I couldn't play tackle, and this was my first touchdown for the Indians, right? Played flag football, great stuff, type of thing where we'd, go have like a ceremony at the end of the season, get some trophies, But I tried out for the Spartans the next year. I nominated Darnell Antoine Terrell. He's been an important person for me in football. He was number 3 in high school. He was a star NFL caliber, Division I recruit, big time recruit for the University of Missouri. Went on to play cornerback there. We were on the track team together. We were on the football team together. I used to hold his blocks. That's not some sort of a pun, but when we ran track, he was one of the fastest 200-meter runners in the state. In fact, I think he was runner-up, second or third, in a very fast year at the Missouri State track meet his senior year. Amani Butler was running at that time. Amani was a guy who went to Parkway North High School in Missouri and just shattered a ton of records. But I remember DT ran against him, and DT would ask me to hold his blocks, which is the biggest honor ever, because as an athlete, in some ways, a lot of us are superstitious. You know, football means so much that you kind of get a little superstitious from time to time. And I guess DT felt like I was his good luck charm. And he did something for me. Not only did I look up to him, you know, he's a great athlete. He kind of reminded me of Boobie Miles, you know, in the movie Friday Night Lights. He was just God-given tremendous talent, you know. And, you know, it was just cool to, you know, have that connection with someone who was so athletically gifted. And we were friends, you know. He was nice to me always and looked out for me, and, you know, just a good, you know, a good big brother to have around. And when he graduated, he asked me to carry on his number 3, which is another divine number, divine number 3. You know, there's all kinds of symbolic stuff, Trinity, all that stuff. But nevertheless, DT handed me his number, and that was a huge honor for me to wear number 3, because, you know, your number is something that's very special to you. We've talked before. I've had my friend Caleb Medley on the podcast. We talked about the meaning of 48 for him. And, you know, we've all worn different numbers over the years. You know, 3 for me, 12 was my number consistently for a period of time. I've worn a ton of numbers, but 31 in college. But yeah, so that was the first day that I posted. Second day I posted, I nominated Caleb Medley, and it was a picture of me with Chase Kaufman. Game day on the Mizzou football field with a ton of cheerleaders. Chase Kaufman's awesome. He's I put it on Twitter and he retweeted it, baby. Heck yeah. Appreciate that, Chase. Chase is the man. I got to see him when I went to Columbia recently, and just a freaking good dude, you know, like he had a good home life growing up. He's always been humble. We used to study together in college. He was a cool kid, and he didn't mind. Oh, I just dropped all my hats. He didn't mind, you know, hanging out with me and studying with me, and just being a good teammate, you know. Still is, always has been, always will be. And I'll always appreciate that from Chase. So he's not on Facebook, but that dude is, can't say enough about Chase. Next day was a picture of me running down the field. It's a black and white photo, number 3, nothing but the scoreboard in the front. That means that everyone's behind me, just in case you were around me. I'm running for the end zone. I nominated my buddy Scott Ludhauser. That was the night that I broke the school record for most receiving yards in a game at Eureka High School. 190 yards in 4 catches. So that means I averaged 45 yards a catch, and they only threw me the ball 5 times. I think one of the passes got knocked down or something, but that was a special night. John Sumner was there. That was Tom Sumner's son. I remember him on the sidelines. He was the one who was taking notes, and he was the one who told me I broke the record. So that was really meaningful. Appreciate you being the one to message that to me, John Sumner. Appreciate that. So that was, of course, post 3 of 10. Those are good memories. That was a district game against Chaminade. So it was a big, important game. The next post, I nominated Ryan Schrader. He was one of my high school teammates. Played for a while. He went on to play college football. Ryan really, Eureka football meant a tremendous amount to him. And sometimes you don't know what something means to somebody until you see a little bit more than what meets the surface, right? And when we lost our last game, it was against Rockwood Summit. It was district 10th game of the year, senior year. I'll never forget it. You know, it was, I thought it was the last time I might play football at the time. And I remember walking away from the field. They tried to throw me the ball at the end of the game in one last Hail Mary, and it didn't work out. I wasn't able to come down with the pass, with the reception. And I remember, the Falcons played very well that night. They played better than we did. That's how the game goes. Sometimes you lose, right? But when we got home, Ryan Schrader started hyperventilating. I don't know if that's the right word, but he had a panic attack after we lost, and it was really sad to see how much it affected him. I mean, I was sad. I was crushed after that, right? We weren't going to go to the playoffs. We weren't going to move on. We all wanted to. We'd worked our whole high school careers, and the season was over. That was it. And to see how it affected Ryan, like I felt like I tried as hard as I possibly could. But I told Ryan once, and I meant this, that after seeing how it affected him, it made me wish I could go back to try one more time for guys like him, and that's the truth. It was heartbreaking to see how much it affected him, and I think that's part of what a team is, right? Sometimes you play for a bigger purpose than yourself, right? When I see someone like Ryan Schrader hurt so much by that, it makes me want to play harder for him. And it motivates me current day, to keep pushing for my teammates, to keep on, pushing forward, to keep pursuing the dream, keep moving forward. So I tagged him in this post, and this post was a news article. I tagged Jeremy Maclin, Jared Perry, and Denario. They all went on. I know Denario and J-Mac went on to the NFL. Jared might have played semi-pro, or he might have had a chance at the NFL. I don't know. I'd have to look him up. But Jared Perry was a tremendous athlete as well. Everyone in this article here, the four of us were all mentioned, and it was just a little blurb from the St. Louis STLtoday.com when I was on the team with these guys. It said wide receiver Jeremy Maclin had several heads turning today with some sure-handed catches. Pinkle said Maclin is excited about being able to play at full speed with the team. He's listed as third at H receiver on the team's depth chart behind Jared Perry, who moved from X receiver, and Denario Alexander, but I'd use his spring depth as a guide more than a gospel. So that was paragraph 1. The next one is about me. It says, speaking of wide receivers, Michael Oldroyd, a redshirt freshman from Eureka, made some nice diving catches in practice. Oldroyd is a walk-on, but already a favorite among some of the other receivers. During a one-on-one drill, several teammates were chanting his name. They spelled my name wrong, by the way. Michale. It's A-E-L, right? Get it right. Chael, which means of God, by the way. Chael means part of God. So, get it right, you frickin' buffoons. Spell it right. Anyway, the next post was day 5 of 10. It was a picture of the Eureka football team. This was my junior year. It was the varsity squad with JV. So the guys in purple on this pic were all varsity. And then most of the sophomores behind us, which was JV. I believe that's how they broke it down. I nominated my teammate Dennis Bassett. Dennis Bassett and I are brothers. He always believed in me. He always was positive. I told him I wanted to play in the NFL. He never shot me down. He always said, I believe in you. I believe, Dennis Bassett always, have you guys seen that movie with Eminem, Eminem 8 Mile? Do you remember that one dude that was like really, he like was always in Eminem's corner. He was trying to help him out, get him on stage, announce him. I forget the dude's name in the movie, but he was basically like, he was there like, I believe in you, man. Like, get up there, do it, right? And I always felt like Dennis Bassett was kind of that guy for me, And it was sad. He was a couple years older than me. I think he played with I think him and DT were the same age. They lived together in college, actually. One of my best friends, Chris Blackerby, who's been on my podcast, the three of them lived together at Mizzou when I first went up there. And I remember we had so much fun. I went over to the house one night and we were just laughing. And it was just this type of bond that goes so much deeper than anything superficial or Instagram-like heavy. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you're spiritually moved by the presence of these people. That's what friends are, right? That's what a friendship should be, is where you're truly just thankful and happy to be around this person or this group of people. And I was so happy to be around my buddies here, my sports buddies. Chris ran track with us in high school for a bit. He was a big basketball guy. He wore number 3 as well, by the way. And Chris loved basketball. He still loves basketball, of course. He doesn't go away. But Dennis got hurt his senior year. Dennis broke his femur, and he was out, and it was very devastating that he didn't get a chance to cash in on all the hard work he had built up to. Your senior year is the year to shine. For a lot of us, most of the people who play sports in high school, senior year is a big deal, right? Boobie Miles got hurt his senior year in Friday Night Lights, and it's a tragedy to see that. But Dennis has always been a good friend, and we love him. I love you, Dennis. If you're ever listening to this, and I miss you, dude. We haven't caught up in a while, so let's change that, bro. Anyway, day 6 of 10, we got Paul Simpson. So one of my buddies at Mizzou. He was friends with DT, also friends with me. I mean, we were all friends, right? We're all teammates. But Paul wore number 6. He made 6 a godly number. I can say that much. Paul Simpson is one of my buddies. He was a defensive back with DT, and I used to go against those guys all the time in practice, and they would always encourage me, help me off the ground. There were some guys that would try to discourage me from working so hard, but I started to overcome that negative energy, and they would start to help me off the ground. I mean, you saw the news article here where people were chanting my name. People started to respect it. It builds momentum slowly over time, just like the movie Rudy. If you guys have seen it, it's you got to battle through that negative everything and being treated like you're less than equal, and all these things, and earn that respect, which kind of leads me to that post itself. When it comes to earning respect, Terry Steve was the picture here in day 6 of 10, and Terry Steve was our 7th and 8th grade football coach. 7th and 8th grade, he told me, the only time in my life where the team would actually anonymously vote for team captains, right, was in 7th and 8th grade. The rest of the time, coaches always nominated the captains, right? They were always the ones that chose. But Terry did an open ballot, like a democracy, and something unique happened. And I'm not bragging, but we're talking about this. This all comes back around to when he says it comes to earning the respect of your teammates. He said that the biggest honor that you can ever receive in the game of football is the respect from your teammates. And he told me that I earned it because I was the only person who was not just voted once unanimously, or whatever you want to call it, to be one of the team captains for the year. I think they had 4 team captains each year, but I was the only person to be nominated as a captain for both years, right? And he told me that that's the highest honor that anyone could ever receive in the game of football. So that means a lot. He took me to dinner one time, and he told me that this was when I was playing football at Mizzou. He took me to dinner one time. He told me that he can tell by the look in my eye that there's a light there, and that he believes at the time, he said, he quoted, that he believes that Coach Pinkel is watching me, and that he notices it, and that he's rooting for me. He told me that he believed that Coach Pinkel was secretly rooting for me, and that he believed that Coach Pinkel could see the fire, whatever you want to call it. And he told me, he used an analogy, when we said bye, and he gave me a hug, and he said, he used that analogy about how, some people have a lot of hat and no cattle, he told me that I have a hell of a lot of cattle, and he gave me a real tight hug, and he said, don't ever lose all your fucking cattle. And I'll never forget that. So day 7 of 10, of course, divine number 7. I chose Chase Patton. It was a picture in high school of me with a couple teammates, John Matheson and Nelson Morath and Eric Heidi. And, these guys, this is our JV years, and Eric and I had this special connection on the field. It was pretty much 1 out of every 2 times that he threw me the ball, I scored that year. I think I had 500 yards receiving and 25 receptions and 10 touchdowns. So one out of every 2.5 times I touched the ball, I scored. And I remember our coach Cleveland, we were watching films one day, and he got mad at us. And he got mad at the offensive line, saying, you've taken the easy way out, because you know that if we get to third down, that Oldroyd and Heidi will bail you out. He goes, so you guys aren't even trying when we're running the ball anymore, because you know that Heidi and Oldroyd will bail you out on third down. For those of you that don't know football, that's obviously a huge compliment to Heidi and I. And we obviously couldn't do it without the offensive line, but it was just a funny exaggeration. Sometimes true, maybe, I don't know, at the time. But, Heidi and I just had that magic touch, man. It was a divine gift. Number 7 and number 3. Heidi was number 7 his senior year. I was number 3. And it was out of this world, I'm telling you. Literally, like, he would throw the ball up. And I'm so thankful for that season, because, I was able to at least experience what it felt like to, just to have a significant impact the way we were able to we were undefeated, we would just throw long passes, and I just marched down the field and score. It was a real special time to be able to, to do that. And Heidi was, we would stay late, throw the football all the time, preparing for senior year. He ended up getting hurt his senior year, and that was sad, because his junior year is when we played JV together. His senior year, he got hurt early in the season, broke his clavicle, and we never really got to recognize our true potential on varsity. And, not to make it selfish, it's a team thing always, right? But, I wanted to get a full ride scholarship to a Division I school, and, the guy who stepped in for him did a great job. The guy who stepped in for him, did break the school record with me for most receiving yards in a game, but I never really got a chance to, see what we could do together on varsity, Eric and I. And it is what it is, right? If there's a reason that happens for everything, and it is what it is. And I chose Chase on this day. Eric's not on Facebook. I would have chose Eric. I would have chose Chase on a different day, because Chase deserves a day. But Chase was a quarterback that, I'm just so thankful for all the times that we spent. We stayed on the football field until we got kicked off. We stayed on the field until we get kicked out of practice every day, pretty much after practice at Mizzou. And it was a true honor to be able to receive the football from a guy of that stature and caliber. And Chase has got an amazing story. I actually recommend looking him up. Him and his wife have been battling. She's been battling cancer for some time now. They have a couple kids, and there's ways to get involved and help out. And, Chase has just been a selfless guy. He was one of the few people who always stuck to his Christian principles. And he proved, what, I will say this. I do think that Chase honored God through his service to me. And what I mean by that is he was giving it up for a higher power of unselfishness. He served God through his service to help me with my dream come true, to help make me a better receiver. He didn't have to do that. We had a special connection. We loved doing it. I assume he loved it just as much as I do, but I can't speak for him. I'm so lucky to have gotten to run around and catch passes in the Missouri Tiger football stadium with him. And, I keep him in my prayers and his family. I hope Ashley seems like she's doing a lot better. She's made it through a ton of chemo treatments, but, send prayers to that family, because there's some special people, and Chase is a real special guy. Day 8 of 10, posted a picture of me when I was 7 or 8 years old. I think I was maybe even 9 at this time, but I was playing for the West County Spartans, and I said, like all Spartan children, I began my agoge at age 7, taught never to surrender. It's actually, as silly as that may sound, it's actually true. I did start playing football when I was 7 years old. I was a Spartan. That was my first tackle football team. And our coach at the time, the year after I got cut, a new guy came in named Jimmy Porter. He had a son. His name was Jimmy Porter also, so Jimmy Porter II. And he respected that I didn't give up, that I came back out, and they made a good spot for me, and they started throwing me the freaking football. And by the second year, so the third year total, they actually made a spot on the team where I was catch. They made a spot for me to be able to catch touchdowns with the guys, and we had a great team. They had an entire playoff system, won a ton of games. I was always on winning teams. I was always on winning teams. I don't think I ever, in all my years of playing football, 14 years, I was never on a losing team. And, Coach James Porter, I've talked about him before, about how, he started crying actually at our banquet speech. I don't need to go into that again because I've talked about it before, but yeah, he started crying when he talked about my love for football, and I know he loves football. And it was a real special thing. I was embarrassed actually. I was embarrassed that day because he made me. He put the spotlight on me, saved me till last, and it was a unique thing. And I tagged Jimmy Jackson in this one, right? James Jackson, as you guys know, I've talked about him recently. I met him up with him when he came to New York here recently, and we've been keeping in touch. He's a coach at a high school. He's putting out good vibes, being a mentor for a lot of young men out there, standing for good things. He's a father, husband. He's working on putting out a podcast of how to fulfill your dreams and make your dreams come true. And, YouTube stuff. So him and I connect. And he keeps in touch with guys like Tony Temple, who is a good friend of mine, star player. Both of them scholarship, Division I high caliber running backs that contributed to the Missouri football team. I remember Jimmy was the first guy that, when I started working out down on the field, and I realized, I'm running around with guys that can kill me right now if they want to. Like legally it's not going to be a good idea, but if they want to run me over and kill me, they can. These were gladiators that we were out here with. Dudes 300 pounds, so big that they had their own gravitational pull. And Jimmy was just a positive light for me from the very beginning, a great teammate. I know he would do it for anybody on his team. It's just a testament to who he is. And, he said, "You cool, man? You doing good? Yeah, good to have you out here, bro." Like that type of positive energy. Just a brother of mine from the get-go, always has been, always will be. I tagged him in the post, and it was cool to get that and to reconnect with the Spartan, thing. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie 300, but when Spartan children are young, they go off to the agoge. And I felt like when I started playing tackle football, I felt what I really did to go to my own agoge. I mean, it was the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life up until that point. We used to do these hitting drills called Okies, where you would lay down head to head, right? And it was my first time doing real contact. I remember the first time I went against this dude named Savon Greer. He reminded me of Ken Norton Jr., the football player for the San Francisco 49ers, middle linebacker. This dude looked like him. He was mean. This dude just ran me over. And I was like, I don't know if I like football. I don't like the way this feels. I remember just getting laid out. The first year I tried out, the coaches would have us run into them and hit bags. And the coaches would make me fly through the air. I'd hit the bag and I'd do like a backflip. And I think some people even laughed at me. I was so small, I didn't know what I was doing. It hurt. It did not feel good at all. I mean, I was getting it handed to me. They call it cleaning your clocks. I got my clocks cleaned over and over again. I got trucked. I got trucked by guys like Savon Greer. And as I got older and bigger and stronger and more brave and more courageous, I learned how to hit harder, and gave me a huge advantage for when I moved to Missouri, because I had a couple years under my belt. I knew what it felt like to score game-winning touchdowns with pressure. And, it was a really, really special experience. We never went to the Turkey Bowl. We always wanted to do that, but we fought hard and had successful years. And, it was special. Those dudes had swag too. Growing up in California, the Bay Area, learned a lot about all kinds of stuff from an early age. And we used to run hills, and we would chant Spartan things like, when you tell it, like one guy at the front, the leader would scream, when you tell it, and then the rest of the group would scream together. So like one would be like, when you tell it, the rest of the group would be like, when you tell it, right? Everyone, tell the story, tell the whole damn world, this is Spartan territory. And then we would have like, we would hit our pads, we would like, like we would do all kinds of, we were warriors, man. We were some tough kids. We really were, and I'm not understating that at all. So, I guess moving on to the next picture, then I had a picture of Coach Sumner. I wrote up a nice little thing about him. Someone said, I don't like that you guys don't have any explanations in these. So I explained a little bit about Coach Sumner in this, and yeah, Coach Sumner is a very special person. All the coaches, a lot of the coaches had a very significant impact on me. Coach Sumner was right there at the top as far as what a meaningful impact he made in my life positively. Just an unselfish person, tough as nails, teddy bear, right? Like very tough, very tough guy, but very caring on the inside, very caring of his athletes, as a father, as a husband. He's got a couple kids. His son is actually the head football coach of Eureka right now. He inherited the torch, Jake Sumner. His other son is a wrestling and football coach at Lafayette. John is his youngest, and John is his youngest son. John and I have always been friends. He was a guy I mentioned a little bit ago who told me about the record. And, John was just a tough kid. Him and I, our first day, when I moved to Missouri, it was John's first day of school, actually, in Missouri, when I was in 5th grade at the time, and he was in 4th. And I met him, and he just looked like a little pit bull, like just this tough dude. He has like a birthmark, and I was like, dude, this dude is cool, and I can tell he's a badass, and he always was, So John has a bunch of kids of his own. Like, they're all doing they're all super successful at wrestling. They're like young Spartans, and I nominated Jimmy Porter in this photo with Coach Sumner and I from this Teacher's Choice Awards that Coach Sumner chose of me. And yeah, Jimmy Porter was the guy I just mentioned. He was the son of my first head football coach at the Spartans. And I don't keep in touch with Jimmy, but we're friends on Facebook. And he looks just as tough as ever. I scroll through some of his pictures. I see his dad in here, so that makes me happy to see that he's up and supporting his son, as he always has. So that's not a surprise, but it's just good to see a picture of him doing. It looks like he's doing well, and yeah, it looks like Jimmy's become an MMA fighter. So you want to talk about being a tough dude? I see a bunch of pictures that he used to compete, fighting the MMA. So that's Jimmy Porter, no surprise. And then it's day 9. So tomorrow is day 10. I don't know. I could post 100 pictures of football. So I don't know. I may just post a picture of the bowl ring and call it a 10-day series. But we'll see. We'll see who I hand off the final torch to in this fun little Facebook event. But other than that, I think if there was anything else I wanted to talk about, it is a special episode 77. So I was talking to a buddy today. We were talking about a conversation we had in the past about we've met up a couple times. I felt for the longest time I was not religious at all. My dad gave me a choice as a kid if I want to go to church or not, and I chose not to as a young kid. I remember when I made that choice, I felt a little dark cloud go over me, and I don't mean that as a terrible thing, but I felt a little lonelier when I made that choice, but I did, and I stuck with it and moved on with my life. And I remember I started praying regularly when I was in 8th grade. I would pray every night before I went to bed, even though I didn't really believe or whatever you want to call it, but I felt this bug come back to me after football finally ended at Mizzou. This bug kind of, there was a seed that was planted, I guess. Even actually conversations with guys like Chase Patton and Austin Huff and things like that. Just these little seeds that got planted over time. One of them, with Wally Alayu, guy I mentioned earlier tonight. But nevertheless, yeah, it came back. It's weird. It's weird how that happens. Some people are forced to go to like religious school or Catholic school and all these things, and they reject it after, think it's all BS and all this stuff. And some people, some people, it finds them eventually. I don't know how you want to put it, but it finds a way into their heart, right? And I guess you could say that I'm one of those people where it's a seed was planted in my heart, and it's grown into a pretty solid oak tree, I'd say. And I have no agenda of trying to sway anybody into believing what I do or anything like that. But it's what gives my life so much richness and meaning and happiness and joy. And yeah, it grounds me, and I'm just, I think I played football in some ways. When I was on top of the world, I felt like I was, to take ownership the way you have to as a football player. In some ways, you're taking ownership, as in, I will make this happen. It is up to me, like you gotta. I guess what I'm trying to say without saying it is that I was playing a little selfishly, I think, and after I realized that it can all be gone in an instant, I realized, that there's a lot of this that's truly out of my hands. There's a higher power here. I felt like when I got hurt, a higher power stepped in and took control of my life and said, no, this direction is no longer a path for you, for whatever reason. I'm not saying as punishment or anything like that, but just there's a reason for it, and I was it was no longer my choice, right? There are some things that we can choose to do in this life and some things that are out of our control, right? There's a prayer, grant me the wisdom to control the things I can and to let go of the things that I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I was wise enough to realize that there was a change in the course of my life outside of my control after I got hurt, and it slowly led me to this concept of the higher power and falling in love with a chick, my college girlfriend, and truly, being in love with her at the time. And I remember my first time hearing, a Corinthians Bible verse. I started crying when it was talking about love. It was at a wedding, and I said, how is it that something can articulate how I feel about someone so well, down to the word of it, right? Like, some people read a textbook and they feel like an expert. Some people go out into the world and then they can come back and read a textbook and like, oh yeah, this is true, or oh, that's kind of off. But like, I experienced something, came back, and then had text that validated a feeling that I had, which was Corinthians verse, I think 1 Corinthians book 3-7. I forget. You guys know it's love is patient, love is kind, right? It was the first time I heard it was at a wedding. Yeah, I started crying as soon as it just really, it got to me, And when I fell in love, I realized like something can't be so beautiful. This girl can't be so beautiful on the inside and the out. Just by chance, right? So that was a big beginning for me as well. And in fact, her and I talked once, you know, and she came from we were going through a hard time once, and she went home, and when we were about to break up early on in our relationship, and she came back and she told me that she was praying, and I think we never really talked about that deep, you know, and she was praying that we would be okay, you know, and she was embarrassed to admit that to me. She said, "Do you think that that's weird that I was praying?" And I said, "No, I don't think that's weird. We talked about God a little bit, and I said, do you believe in God, you know?" And she said, "Yes, what I do believe is that nobody should think that the whole world revolves around them, you know, that and I guess I hate to selfishly admit that in some ways as a younger man I felt that way, you know, and as I've grown, that's not true. I think it is dangerous to serve yourself and think that you are the highest power, and in some ways it may feel natural to do that if you're a young fantastic athlete who, you know what I mean, has the world at your fingertips in so many ways. And you know, you might think, oh yeah, like this is all about me, you know, like I can do anything. I'm untouchable. I'm Superman. I felt like Superman, you know. So when I realized that I'm not, and that my powers could be revoked immediately against my will and outside of my control, that was a big turning point in some ways, you know. So I always I make a vow that if I ever do play football again or anything, it doesn't matter, football, whatever, you know, but that I would truly give all glory to God, and I give all my glory to God now, you know, past, present, and future. Is there anything else that I wanted to talk about tonight? Bruce Almighty is a good flick. I think about that when I think about my buddy Wally, who was doing comedy tonight. I think about Bruce Almighty because he's a reporter, and you know, just the whole connection between that whole thing. I haven't seen that show God Friend and Me lately, so I don't know how that thing's been going. But in some ways, I feel like this podcast is kind of like we have that parallel, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel a little bit of a connection with that show, even though I don't watch it anymore. I was talking to an agent for acting, and he said, "What's like a TV show that you like or watch?" And I said, "God Friended Me." I told my girlfriend, she's like, "That's the dumbest answer you ever could have said." He probably didn't know how to respond to that. Like she's like, God Friended Me is not that like popular of a show. But you know what? The truth will lead you down the path that you truly are destined to be. I do believe that you should never be afraid of the truth, as scary or as silly as it may seem, as much of a detour as you may think it take your life. I realized like you can live in a web of lies, or you can take your staff and drive it into the ground and drive it into the ground and say that I command everything around me to live around my truth, right? I will not allow myself to be dictated and manipulate the truth to suit me. I will let the truth have its stay and live my life according to the truth. And I think if you do that, it's a very brave thing to do. If you live in truth and honesty, the world will transform around you. You don't have to be afraid of creating a web of lies, you know. So I think that that's worth stating. I believe that. I've seen it. It's been true in my life. So yeah. Is there anything else that I wanted to say? Yeah, I was talking to my buddy and today, and we were talking about some of these things. One of his favorite verses is parts of the Bible is Ecclesiastes, where he talks about chasing the wind. Chasing the wind is something that it's a metaphor, right, for chasing money, chasing success, chasing girls, chasing worldly things, and it's what a fool would do. It's what a fool does, because it's an illusion, right? And don't get caught up chasing the wind, right? You'll never be fulfilled. You'll never have enough material things. It's always just an ongoing carrot. Be thankful for the things that you do have and build on good, right? Something that a lot of my high school football coaches and teachers do and have done. So I think that those types of things are important. And I told him that in becoming the best comedian, well, this is what I'm telling you guys. I don't know if I told him this, but in becoming the best comedian that I can be, I have to open up to my true beliefs. And someone asked me where my kindness comes from. We really dug down deep, and I was like, I think it comes from my mom. She was raised in the Philippines. She spoiled me with love, and part of that kindness or that ongoing empathy is somewhat inherent, but it's also because of my faith, in love. I believe that love is God. God is love, vice versa. And my mom was raised Catholic. So that's where it all stems from, is the whole belief in love, belief in God. And I think that for a while I was always nice. I was always a nice guy, regardless of my religious beliefs or whatever. But it all made sense later, finding out. Somebody once told me that I was different. I was such a nice person. This girl told me this once, and she kept telling me, "Oh, it's God, that is causing you to be so kind." And I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I was like, "No, it's not," right? Like, anytime God would come up with a conversation, I was repulsed by it, right? Because I thought, "No, that stuff's nonsense. It's ridiculous," No, I'm nice because I choose to be nice, is what but she had a conviction that it was, it was within God's control. And I thought that was that always stuck with me. I always thought about that later in life. She meant it from the bottom of her heart, and I thought that was a nice girl. She was a nice girl. Her name was Christina, I believe. There's a lot of symbolism behind names and numbers. So, it's an interesting thing. Everyone should know what their name means. I think everyone should. There's a reason why when you introduce yourself to somebody, you say your name first. Did you know that? Like, it's an important. It's a part of your everything that you are, right? Your name, and some names have a lot of meaning, and some names are just by happenstance. Your parents just chose that name for whatever reason, and it's awesome. You don't have to have some cool meaning behind your name, but it's fun. Names are fun, and there's a lot of meaning behind. There oftentimes is. But I was telling my buddy today that I do believe that I'm on a mission in some ways, a spiritual mission with my comedy. I feel like as I break away and set my own path in the direction that I truly want to go as an artist and comedian, I'm going from I'm not being externally driven. I'm being internally driven in the path that I'm starting to lead in my comedy, and that I have been doing for a while in life, which is letting my heart dictate the path and my gut rather than what everyone else is doing, what other comedians are doing, and all these things. And it's really, I feel like you're chasing the wind if you're just doing what everyone else is doing. If you're just chasing Instagram likes, and I put stuff on Instagram for fun, and I like a like. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think that would be inappropriate for me to just sit here and pretend that I don't like getting likes. I think everyone secretly likes likes, you know, but I think chasing them too much can be unhealthy. And I think you gotta, rather than chasing something external, you want to chase, you want to run your journey on the internal side. And I do feel that I'm becoming a lens for my humor, even is becoming in some ways a lens for light, and laughter is the best medicine. So I do feel that, without being corny, right, or too obvious with predictable ending and all these things, that I am going down a path of light, pursuing it, at least trying to bring light to the world through my comedic voice and through my honest dispositions, while still remaining goofy, fun, lighthearted, and not getting, you know, super deep all the time, which I know this podcast is pretty deep. Forgive me if it's annoying, but if you're still listening, maybe that means that you are intrigued or you're enjoying it. So I do feel like, in some ways, you know, Muhammad Ali was on a spiritual mission as an athlete, and in some ways I feel like I'm on a spiritual mission as a comedian. Not in some ways, in many ways. The main reason that I'm doing it at this point, you know, I'm doing it for a higher power. I'm doing it for love, to honor that, to glorify it. Hey, 1 second. Yeah, Jessica. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Do you miss me?
I'm gonna turn the TV off, okay?
Okay, do you miss me?
No,
You don't?
no,
Why?
because I wish you would have turned the TV off if you weren't watching it.
I didn't want to bother you in here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't think that you would want to hear me on the
What did you eat for dinner?
I don't think I ate. Anyway. What?
There's no remote control.
I'm not sure, Jessica. I'm recording a podcast right now, though.
Well, you turn the TV on.
Pardon?
Where is it?
1 second.
Never mind.
You got it? Okay, great. Okay. So, as we get ready to wrap up here, I think in conclusion, my buddy thought it was really cool that I was being this. He told me he thought it was kind of cool and brave, and gotta have strong convictions and confident, you know, to go down such a unique path, I guess. But it's coming from within, man. It really is. It's coming from my heart, and that's why I'm here. I feel, in a lot of ways, right? I'm here to stretch my wings, baby, and flap those wings, son. Flap the wings. Was there anything else that I wanted to talk about, though? Let's see here. Yeah, I think I'm ready to wrap up here. I think that the only things I want to talk about are something called. I want to talk about two last things in spirit of episode 77. Regardless of anyone's religion or anything else, whether or not you pray, I think prayer is good. You don't have to be a specific sect or anything. I think different religions pray. I think that I believe that prayer is very powerful. It's something I've been doing since I was younger, before I even believed in God, as I told you. Sometimes I'll just say the Lord's Prayer and just be thankful, being thankfulness out loud, you know, for the opportunity to play football when I was younger, and having a good day of football practice. I would pray, over those things. And I think a good prayer that I saw, so many people hate like the Catholic religion because of all the negative things that have happened with priests and the young boys, and I hate to bring that up, but we can't ignore the truth. And those are terrible, horrific, sad things, that religion can be separated, I think, from your relationship with what I believe is a higher power. And it can be a tool to assist with that relationship if done right. But either way, I do think that the Pope is cool in a lot of ways. Well, I think he's really cool, actually, to be honest, without trying to be whatever. But I think he's awesome. And there's this thing called the 5-finger prayer, praying for your friends and your family, right? That's one. Praying for your parents, teachers, those that look over you and help you grow, like that, things like that. Praying for the leaders, the people that are in positions of political power, things like that, celebrity status, whatever, praying for the ones that are weaker than you, the ones that can't help you, the ones that maybe you can help, right? And praying for yourself. I think that those are 5 good things to pray for, and I'll just leave you with that. And finally, my favorite verse at this moment in time, or the one that I feel most compelled to share, is, if I have the gift of prophecy and all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I do not have love, then I am nothing. It's saying that you could have the entire world at your fingertips, but if you don't have love, then you are nothing. You have nothing. It's all meaningless without love, right? That is 1 Corinthians 13-2. The other Bible verse that I mentioned earlier was 1 Corinthians 13, verse 3-6, or verse 3-7. So, I'm not saying that I believe every single thing word for word, but when something resonates, when I read something and it resonates with me, then I share it, right? I don't feel compelled to just quote something that I've read in a Bible and say, this is true, this is right, because someone told me, and I have never lived life. And I'm not saying that happens. Sometimes it does. There's different ways of looking at it. I don't know if that's right or wrong. All I know is, from my perspective, I've lived this, and life is meaningless without love. It doesn't matter. You could live for 1,000 years, watch all your friends live and die, and all those that you care about come and go, like that witch lady from Game of Thrones, right? She lived so long. But if you don't have love, and life is temporary. We're not going to live forever, right? So it's not like you can't hold on to it. You can't. You got to hold on to the love, but you can't. You have to learn to let go of certain things that are temporary. I think that's a big part of love, is learning to let go. I've had to do that, right? We're all going to lose people at different times in our lives, sadly, because it's the cycle of life, and letting go without dishonoring that love. You'll never love that thing or that person any less when you let go, but learning to move on and to to regrow, either new roots or strengthen the root that you have. I think that that's all super important, and it's part of continuing to live, part of moving forward, and that's a big part of life, So until you meet again, hopefully, right? So what we all want is to be able to meet again with those that we love most. But that love, that connection, that keeps you moving forward, right? Let it move you forward. Don't let it hold you back. Well, I'd say that's pretty much it, guys. This podcast has lasted a while, and let's give it up for my Superman hat here, right? This is somebody named Kal-El, right? Do you guys know who Kal-El is? Kal-El is his name was Clark Joseph Kent. A lot of religious symbolism with Superman, my favorite superhero. Born, from parents that truly loved him, and Kal means part of God as well. Actually, it's like similar to Kale, Chael. So Kal-El means God. So Superman has a special meaning, right? Anyway, I hope you guys are. Don't worry, this was a special episode. It's episode 77, so it's the divine episode. I'm not gonna, talk about God for the entire episode, every single episode from this point forward. But I felt the need to make this one special and honor love, and my belief in love in a unique and special way. And I think that I've done that, so I feel good about it. I'm happy with it. I feel like everything I said was true for me. So I feel good. I hope you guys have a great week. Maybe this will help spiritually restore. Maybe, who knows? But either way, God bless you. I love you. I appreciate all of your support. And I'm out here fighting. So I hope you're fighting for a good and better life this week. You just got to put like one foot in front of the others, and you're like, which one now? Oh, the other foot forward. And you just like do it again and again. You're like, oh, right, and then left, right, and then left. And sometimes you even have to turn, But that is my message, is keep moving forward. As Michael Oldroyd said, anytime you get knocked down, look up, get up, and don't ever give up. So thank you guys. I'll meet your ear. I will meet your eardrums again soon, hopefully. All right. Peace. Love ya. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. A little.
From your show?
I'm sorry. Did I awake you? I don't mean to. Are you mad? Are you mad?
No.
Okay.
I didn't get that sound.
Yeah. I love you.
Okay.
That makes me happy to hear. You were screaming at me recently for trying to come over and give you a kiss. Can I get a kiss now?